So this article is out of the Rewire News, and it says that Justice Department announces court order revoking naturalized citizenship, and its reason is citing fingerprint issues. So Justice Department is revoking naturalized citizenship to thousands. Operation Janus may revoke the citizenship of thousands of people, according to the Department of Homeland Security, some of whom have been in the U.S. for decades. So this comes at not a good time at all. And so I believe the reason why this right here has happened, and this is in my opinion, is because there's so much fighting over the whole issue of immigration. And so it's just another thorn, so to speak. So this is out of the Rewire News, and this was there's several articles on it, and they report on this one particular guy who actually they used as an example. And so it says the Department of Justice, which is abbreviated DOJ, announced Tuesday that a judge from the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey entered an order canceling a person's naturalization certificate, revoking his citizenship, and reverting him to a lawful permanent resident. The move potentially makes him subject to deportation. So his name is a hard name to say, so I'm going to do my best. So I believe it's pronounced Balander or Balinder Sai, Balinder Sai, also known as Devinder Sai, is the first casualty, in other words, of Operation Janus is what they call it. And so it's a joint operation by the DOJ of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. It appears that because the USCIS failed to use fingerprint records effectively, those who have been granted citizenship without paper or proper fingerprinting records, meaning before fingerprints were digitized, they may now be subject to having their citizenship revoked. And so this is going to affect a lot more people. So this is not good news at all. So Operation Janus does not bode well for thousands of immigrants who have had to navigate to the U.S. And U.S. complicated this lengthy and costly immigration system. So Operation Janus began because the USCIS ordered deported or removed under another identity when during the naturalization process, their digital fingerprint records were not available, according to the document released by Department of Homeland Security, which is abbreviated DHS. So Office of Inspector General in September 2016, digital records were not available because although USCIS procedures require checking applicants' fingerprints against both the Department of Homeland Security and Federal Bureau of Investigations, which is the FBI, digital fingerprint repositories, neither contains all old fingerprint records. So not all the old fingerprints or all the old records were included in the DHS repository when it was being developed. And so Operation Janus may revoke citizenships of thousands of people, according to DHS. These are people who will have to, or who have been in the U.S. as citizens for decades. So just think of how frustrating this is going to be and how crazy this is going to be for a lot of people. So Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE, claims to have identified nearly 150,000 older fingerprint records of aliens with final deportation orders or who have criminals or fugitives who are criminals or fugitives that have not been digitized. And so the FBI repository is missing records because not all records taken during the immigration encounters were forwarded to the FBI. So DHS reported. So according to this, Operation Janus identified 115,000 cases in which people were granted citizenship without the proper fingerprint data available. So the USCIS intends to refer approximately, in addition, 1,600 for prosecution, the DOJ reported. And so the DOJ is asserting, according to its Tuesday statement, that this case, or that cases in which proper fingerprinting data is missing may suggest that some of those affected by USCIS oversight sought to circumvent criminal record and other background checks in the naturalization process. So in the cases of Sai, the native of India, DOJ asserted that he arrived at San Francisco International Airport September 25th, 1991, without travel documents or proof of identity, claiming his name was Devinder Sai. Sai was placed in exclusionary or exclusion proceedings, but did not appear for his immigration court hearing and was ordered deported January 7, 1992. So on February 6, 1992, he filed an asylum application under the name Balender Sai, according to DOJ, and claimed to be an Indian who entered the U.S. without inspection. So Sai abandoned his asylum application after he married a U.S. citizen who filed a visa petition on his behalf. And so he was naturalized under the name Balai Sai, or Balender Sai, on July 28, 2006. And so DHS Office of Inspection General has warned that as long as the older fingerprint records have not been digitized, including the repositories, USCIS risks making naturalization decisions without complete information, and as a result, naturalizing additional individuals who may be ineligible for citizenship or who may be trying to obtain U.S. citizenship fraudulently. So Operation Janus does not bode well for thousands of immigrants who have had to navigate the U.S. complicated, lengthy, and costly immigration system. So as an American immigration consul explained in August 2016, fact sheet, immigration in U.S. states on temporary or permanent basis is limited to 3 routes: employment, family reunification, or humanitarian protection, all avenues currently being attacked by the Trump administration. Each of these routes is highly regulated and subject to numerical limitations and eligibility requirements. And so that's pretty much that article. It gets worse and worse and worse. So that is not good news for those people. So now people who have supposedly citizenship and think that they're okay, be on the lookout for what comes next, because if it isn't okay, you feel in your heart that something's not right or something wasn't done right, then don't be surprised if you get a letter or you get summoned to, this place where you get a letter for other things. But anyway, they're canceling people's naturalization certificates. And so it says it's in the thousands, the numbers of the thousands. So that number could raise, of course, since there's so much hoopla over this. So your thoughts, comments, feedback on this citizenship issues? It just seems like it comes at such a bad time where so many things are going on right now. It's, it just builds more anger and frustration. And I really, it's almost like I kind of saw all of this coming. It just seems like it just gets worse and worse. And I hate to say this again, but I don't see it getting any better either. I also researched that in I'm still here. Now, I want to know if I'm right about this, but I know I saw this. So I've said this before, that I feel like a lot of this has to do with money. and they're making money off of people who are poor, people who are, you know, if you got talents or whatever, if you come from somewhere else, and it's people of color, black, you know, poor people, people that are immigrant people. Most people here are immigrants, but I'm just saying, like, anybody that, you know, if you just don't make a lot of money and you're doing your best or whatever, they're making money off of this now. And so I saw this somewhere, and I thought this was pretty disturbing to me. But it was saying that ICE is to open an immigrant detention center in Texas at the site of the, now, this was what was, well, I'll put it, I'll bring up the screen. So it was a former prison, okay? And this is not good at all. I feel like this is just another move to make money off of people who are incarcerated. It's another warehousing of mass incarceration. So ICE is in, there's not just ICE, there's other groups that are profiting from this, you know, transportation. Because so many people are involved in this and there's money involved in it, that it's actually skyrocketed the economy when it comes to making money off of people's misery, basically, is what it is. So ICE to open immigrant detention center in Texas. The scholar and ICE is slated to open a new detention center for undocumented immigrants at the site of the Texas prison that closed in 2015 after the inmate uprising. And so Willacy County, correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners have approved the contract of a 1,000 bed ICE facility, Valley Star reported. And so this comes on like a Tuesday. So I saw this and I was thinking, this is just another way to make money and warehouse people based on this whole immigration thing. And they're making money making money. Some people say they're losing money, but they're actually making money too off of this. And so you can look it up, and that's a whole nother story in and of itself, how they make money off of this. But the detention center will Raymondville, about 50 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. And so the prison closed March 2015, a month after a rioting of inmates destroyed much of the facility, and the Valley Star had reported this. Okay, and so the county judge, Aurelio Guerrera, told commissioners that the officials have been trying for several years to find a contract to fill the property and boost the local economy. Here we are with the money part of it. Okay, so the prison closure resulted in 400 employees being laid off. And so the jobs are needed, and Willacy County remains in need of improving. Okay, so there's one way of how they're making their money off of this right here. And so, be it so that it isn't positive, people are making money off of it. So President Trump's immigration policies have been at the center of the nationwide debate in the recent weeks. So a zero tolerance policy call for prosecution of all migrants who cross the southern border illegally, leading to an influx of immigration detention centers. So more than 24 immigrant youth shelters in Texas have been approved to operate over capacity. So Trump's policy resulted in more than 2,000 immigrant children being separated from their families and households in different facilities while awaiting prosecution, sparking a backlash from the Democrats and Republicans. So Trump eventually signed an executive order designated to end family separations, but thousands of previously separated families have yet to be reunited. And so this is when this comes, and that's why I say it's such a bad time, because we had so many people protesting against the whole thing. And so it's just, for me, in my opinion, I think it's just another way where they're making money off of people's misery. And so here it is, here it's the facility, and this is really, really bad. So it just seems like it's just getting worse before. I don't see any better in it. But anyway, and I really feel like they don't want to fix the problem because it's a money maker and they're making money off of, like I said, again, people's misery. And so, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like they lied to Hispanic people. They just kind of like, they opened the floodgates and they said, oh, we'll grant you this and we'll grant you that and we'll give you the chance to sign your name here and do this and work these jobs. They use you up. And then when they figure out another way to derail you and to do something, where they figure instead of doing this, we can make money off of cheaper labor. Why don't we do this? And I feel like there's a group of people who are greedy and money hungry, and they're very ruthless, and they don't have any empathy or no sympathy, and they're very cruel and cold-hearted, and all they think about is money and what benefits them. And that's the way this time I feel like is going. And I've said this in previous videos. I feel like this is where the direction is headed, where people like, Bernie Sanders just says there's the 1% and the 99%. Which are you, But I feel like all of the people who are vulnerable Americans and people who don't, they're just really trying to be families. They're trying to get their life in order. They're doing the best they can, are being subjected to this. And it's really sad, and it gets no better. And I personally, in my opinion, I think it's wrong the way they're going about all of this. I mean, didn't it start off, the whole thing started off to me like it was a race thing. And I feel like this is in my heart of hearts. I feel like they pretty much tried to pit different ethnic groups against one another, because if you have people fighting against one another and they don't have anything, and the people who are really the real evil ones, who have a lot of money or they harbor a lot of greed and hate and anger or whatever, resentment for people who don't have a lot, they put people who are, don't have anything against one another so that you can fight over nothing, such as, color and who's got more of this and more of that. And, oh, you guys got all the jobs, and, this group is favored over the other group. And so now they're so bold now, they don't even care anymore. It's now they know that a lot of people are uncovering a lot of the things that are going on, and that they see that they've been putting us against one another, and now look what they're doing. And so this right here, I don't agree with a lot of this at all. I feel like a lot of this is like targeting, and they target blacks, they target people of color, and Hispanic people, and people who are poor, even if you're not a white, if you're not a white person and you're not a black person, you're being targeted some kind of way. You don't have a lot of money, or you're white and you're poor, and you just can't somehow, you just don't fit into that class where they have the money and they have the power and all that. You're kind of looked down on, because like, what happened to you? You should have had it. You've got the skin color, so it's everywhere. Somebody's facing something. And so it just seems sad, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. But anyway, what are your thoughts, your feedback on this? And I feel like blacks are really like put at the back burner. They get kind of like, treated really bad, shooting the kids, not even asking questions about, trying to do things in a way where, they can de-escalate a situation. No, they just go to shooting. So it just, oh man, it's like another one bites the dust kind of thing, just when you think you're up, and then they drag you 5 steps backwards. Thoughts, feedback, comment. What do you think about these developments? A lot of things happening, seem like they're happening rapidly and rapid pace. So there's several articles that I found that point out some of these issues and talk about the circumstances that people are about to face. Some are probably going through it as we speak right now. And so I saw this and I paid close attention to it, and I said, wow, this is something that's going to affect even more people than what we already know it's affecting. And this comes at such a, what I say, a bad time, because we have people here making comments down here about the whole situation. They're not very happy about it. And some people are saying, oh, wow, this is extremely scary. Oh, my father is a naturalized citizen, and this is extremely scary. And so some people didn't even know that this was about to happen. And so this is going to affect a lot more people than what, we already know who is affected. And so basically this is another uh, you know, thing here, and news and politics. And so these are things that are happening right now. So anyway, with that being said, the first article that I read here having to do on this issue was out of the Hill, and it's by a Morgan Gallistar. So anyway, this is not good news at all. So with that, I'm gonna leave you at that. It just seems like it just doesn't get any better. And there's a lot of people that are affected even now, right now, by this as we speak. And so a lot more is going to be affected. And I feel like with the marches and the protests, it really just doesn't really resonate to these people, because I feel like they've got the power because of not of numbers. It's not the numbers of people, it's the money. And I feel that's what controls a lot of this. And so it's gotten so out of control that now that the money has just pretty much, they've got people that they put in the court systems, people they put in law enforcement, people they put in government, and they elect to pretty much control how things go. And it all boils down to money and power. And this is what these people have done. And so it's affecting all of the people that are the most vulnerable. And I'm afraid that's where we're headed. And so your thoughts, feedback, and comment on this issue. And this is why it was so important for people to get elected in positions and stay in school, learn, get educated. And so now they're even trying to change schools. Now they're, like I read in a previous video where they're trying to, they start things in one state and then they move it to other states. So if, it's just like, when you legalize something that they didn't legalize before, and now one does it, then the others do it. And so if you say that kids don't have the right to literacy in one state, guess what the other states are going to say? They're going to follow suit, And so then they're going to start changing the school systems where, this was disturbing as well, where there was an article I was looking at, and I know this is not about immigration, but I feel all of it is somehow connected, where they're pretty much targeting vulnerable Americans and vulnerable people, and people who, even if you're not an American person and you came here and you were looking for some kind of, way to get out of a situation and you're trying to live a particular way, it's like anybody that's in that falls in those ranges, you're like pretty much, you're left out there, in a vulnerable position. If you don't have everything organized, and if you don't have your correct papers, if you don't have, the correct backing, and if you don't have the dollars, then you're pretty much on your own. And it's sad, but I was looking at another article where it said that posh schools, and I believe posh schools, like schools that are like private or schools that are, pretty much well funded, and they got the best teachers and the best education that they give to the kids, are choosing that they were trying to decide that they might segregate the schools. And so it's almost sounding like they're trying to bring it back to how it was in the 60s. As a matter of fact, let's see. And so, okay, so New York, this is out of New York, okay, which I thought was intriguing. So, like, out of New York, like, how would you do that? I'll say new culprit in school segregation, private schools. Okay, so there's several articles on this. The overwhelming whiteness of U.S. private schools in 6 maps. And so private school enrollment contributes to school segregation, study finds. This is out of Washington Post. New York's private schools plan to segregate students by race. Draws parents eerie. Okay, so parents are irate over a plan to segregate students by race at the celebrity-friendly Little Red Schoolhouse in West Village. And this was in last month's parents' $45,485 per year private school. Okay, which counts David Schwimmer and some other people. So I saw that article and was like, oh my God, are they trying to make it back like the 60s? And so I'm not even going to read those articles. I just want you to see that they're out there if you want to look at it. It's in the New York Post, the Washington Post, and the U.S. News. And so there's some schools that are looking at trying to make the schools segregated by race. And so this is something that people, I don't think, have paid attention to. These things are happening, as we speak. And it's like this whole thing was just set up. It was calculated. And anyway, with that, I'm going to leave it at that. So thought, feedback, comments on this. This is really messed up stuff that's been going on. And, now if people did not do the right thing, and I'm not saying that if you didn't do the right thing, that you should, be given a pass. But people who did do the right things, and then there was some little snafu or a mistake, now they're worried. They're like, oh my God, what did I do? I've been working all these years. I'm a good person. And then there's some people who maybe they had some problems in their past, and they've cleaned themselves up. They've gotten on the right path. They're trying to do the best they can. They really aren't trying to do any harm. And now they're caught up in this mess. Those people are now going to be caught up in this somehow. And that's pretty sad. But anyway, with that being said, thoughts, comments, feedback, once again, thanks for listening.